It began with an email that shouldn't have existed. No subject line, no sender name, just the words in the preview. The session was never over. Please return to complete your stay. At first, none of them gave it much thought. 10 years is a long time. Long enough for old inboxes to rot, for companies to vanish, and for the ghosts of a past job to stop whispering in your ear. But something about that message lodged in their heads like a splinter. By the end of the week, 5 people, all from different cities, different lives, had booked train tickets to the Bridgeway Conference Center. The faded hotel in northern Maine where they'd once spent a long, strange corporate retreat in 2014. No one could explain why they said yes. Mark Hansen, 43, had sworn he'd never set foot in that place again. He was the one who found the intern that night. What was her name? Lila? Leah? No. Lena, lying in the corridor near the service elevator, her eyes open but not seeing. Heart failure, the company said. The stress of the retreat. But Mark had seen her mouth move before she went still. He'd heard her say something that made no sense then and makes less sense now. Don't let it end in the room. Now, as the taxi wound through pines and mist, the hotel rose ahead like a bruise in the fog, big, beige, and wrong. He checked his phone. No signal. The driver looked pale, glancing at him in the mirror. You here for the thing? Mark frowned. What thing? The man didn't answer. Just gripped the wheel tighter and muttered, You'll see. When the car stopped, Mark stepped out into the wet air. The parking lot was empty except for one other vehicle, a silver Volvo with New Hampshire plates. He recognized it. Rachel Porter. Of course she'd come. Inside the lobby looked almost identical to how it did 10 years ago. Fading carpet patterned with brown. In green vines, fake fireplace with plastic logs, the reception desk carved from dark wood. But something was different about the air. Heavy, slow. Like walking through someone else's dream. Rachel was leaning against the check-in desk, phone in hand, frowning. Mark, holy shit, you got the email too? He nodded. What? You know who sent it? No, but the date matches exactly. 10 years to the day since the retreat. From the corner of the lobby, her voice called, Well, look who crawled back. Derek Vale, the loudmouth salesman who drank too much. Laughed too loud and bragged about his $1 million smile. His hair was thinner now. His swagger faded, but the sneer was still there. Behind him came Nora Flynn, the HR manager, quiet, nervous. The kind of woman who always looked like she was apologizing for something. And finally, Samir Desai, the data analyst, once bright and cheerful, now thin, hollow-eyed. He carried a notebook clutched to his chest like a Bible. 5 people, same 5 who'd been there that last night. The same 5 who swore they'd never talk about what happened. A woman appeared behind the counter. Her name tag said Evelyn. Her smile was too wide. Welcome back to the Bridgeway, she said in a flat, perfect voice. Your rooms are ready. You'll find everything as it was. Rachel frowned. As it was. You mean everything? Evelyn's eyes flicked over them one by one. Dinner will be served at 7. The session resumes at 8 in the same conference hall. Mark's stomach twisted. The session. She nodded, smile never fading. You were invited to complete it, weren't you? Before anyone could ask more, she handed out 5 old-fashioned brass keys, each with a tag engraved with their initials. The keys were scratched, tarnished, but familiar. Too familiar. Mark looked at his MH room 217. His heart sank. That was the same room. the one where Lena died. The others scattered to unpack, muttering about the weirdness of it all. Mark took the long hallway to the second floor, past the faded paintings and the buzzing light fixtures. Each step brought back fragments. Lena laughing at breakfast, Derek teasing her, the team-building exercise, screaming. His room smelled like lemon cleaner, and something underneath, old sweat, mildew, maybe fear. The bedspread was the same ugly green, the TV, the desk, even the coffee stain on the rug, exactly as it had been 10 years ago. He sat on the bed and ran a hand through his hair, the silence pressed against his skull. He opened the minibar. Inside were the same tiny bottles. Same arrangement. He uncapped one vodka and froze. There was a piece of paper taped inside the door. Don't drink before the session. He dropped the bottle. Someone knocked. Rachel stood there, pale. You found it too, didn't you? He didn't ask what she meant. He just nodded. They gathered in the dining room at 7 sharp. The lights flickered. The only staff member in sight was Evelyn, who served them a perfectly cooked roast they didn't remember ordering. No other guests. No other sound but the clinking of silverware. After a while, Samir spoke. Does anyone remember what happened? I mean, that night? Nora flinched. We agreed never to talk about it. Derek snorted. Maybe that's why we're back to finish what we started. Rachel's voice trembled. You think this is a joke? Derek raised his glass. I think someone wants us to feel guilty, but I don't. The lights went out. For 3 seconds, darkness. Then the emergency lights buzzed on. The roast was gone. Their plates were empty. And Evelyn was standing at the head of the table, whispering something no one could quite hear. It sounded like a prayer or a warning. The room remembers. Then she smiled again. 8 o'clock. The conference hall awaits. They walked the hallway together, unease binding them like chains. The door to the conference hall stood half open. Inside was the same circle of chairs, the same projector screen, even the faint scent of whiteboard markers and cold coffee. But the 6th chair, the one that used to belong to Lino, was occupied. They froze. It was someone sitting very still, head bowed. Mark's breath caught. No, that's not. The figure lifted its head. Pale, eyes black as pitch, smiling faintly. You came back, she whispered. The door slammed behind them, and the session began. The projector flickered to life by itself. Its pale light filled the room, dust particles swirling like tiny souls trapped in the beam. The screen stayed blank, humming faintly, as if waiting for someone to press play. No one moved. No one breathed. Then the voice spoke. Not from any of them, not from any speaker they could see. It came from everywhere and nowhere all at once. Soft, patient, clinical. Like the voice of a therapist who's been dead too long. Welcome back, attendees. Let's begin where we left off. The lights dimmed further, and on the table appeared 5 thick folders. Each bore a name. Each was sealed with red tape. Nora's hand shook as she opened hers. Inside were old photographs, blurry shots of the retreat 10 years ago. People laughing, drinking, playing trust games. And one photo of Lena standing behind her, eyes too wide, smile too forced. Someone had written across the bottom in marker, "Trust fall." She gasped and shoved the folder away. Rachel opened hers next and found her own handwriting on the first page. Notes from that night's team transparency exercise. But the last page was new. It wasn't her handwriting. You didn't tell them the truth, Rachel. That's why we're still here. Her lips trembled. This wasn't here before, the voice interrupted. Honesty is the cornerstone of connection. Let's revisit what was hidden. The projector flickered again, and this time, it wasn't blank. On the screen, a grainy video of the 5 of them sitting exactly as they were now, 10 years younger. Lena sat in the middle, laughing nervously as the others shared secrets. It was the confession circle, that dumb HR bonding game. Rachel leaned forward. Oh my God, how do they have this? The younger Mark on screen said, "My biggest regret is never speaking up." Then he looked at someone off camera. Because I saw something I shouldn't have. The current Mark's stomach turned to stone. The video jumped, glitched, and now Lena was standing, crying. The younger Nora was beside her, whispering, "Don't say it. Just sit down." Then the footage distorted into static, and in the crackling noise came a whisper that filled the entire room. "You let me fall." The walls began to stretch. Literally stretched like the wallpaper with skin being pulled too far. The sound of breathing came from inside it. Derek stumbled backward, chair scraping. "This is bullshit. Someone's staging this." "Sit down," said the voice. It wasn't calm anymore. It was angry. He left before the session was complete. The lights flashed, and suddenly they weren't in the same conference hall anymore. They were in another version of it, one that smelled like rotten rain. The carpet slick with something dark. Mark looked around wildly. Where what? The reflections were in the windows, but not matching their movements. The reflections sat perfectly still, smiling faintly. Derek whispered, Nope, I'm done," and reached for the door. It wouldn't budge. When he kicked it, the wood rippled like liquid. Rachel clutched Mark's arm. "We're dreaming." "Has to be. Then why can't we wake up?" he whispered back. A deep crack ran through the middle of the floor. It spread outward like lightning. And with it came the sound of whispering, hundreds of voices murmuring the same word. "Finish the session. Finish the session." The group stumbled apart as the room literally split in two. Mark and Rachel on one side, Derek, Nora, and Samir on the other. The projector now hung between them, swinging slowly, its light cutting through the crack. It played new images different on each side. They saw Lena's body near the elevator again. This time her eyes were open. She was smiling. A faint whisper played beneath the video. "You closed the door, but you heard me knock." Rachel turned to Mark. "What did you do that night?" He shook his head violently. "Nothing. Haishi was having a panic attack. I thought she needed space. She was dying," Rachel screamed. "You left her out there." The walls around them pulsed. The air grew heavy with the smell of metal and damp earth. And then, softly, from behind them, Lena's voice, "He's still lying." Nora was crying, hands over her ears. "I didn't mean to. I didn't know." Derek grabbed her shoulders. "What didn't you know?" "She came to me. She said she'd found something in the files. The company wasn't running a retreat. It was an experiment, study." Samir, trembling, flipped through his notebook. Lena was right. "I've seen those documents. Behavioral stress endurance, closed environment conditions, ethics waived under NDA." Derek snarled. "You knew? You both knew?" "And let her." A sound interrupted him. The click of a camera shutter. They turned. In the corner stood Lena again, her face pale, neck bruised. She was holding the same old company camera. Click. The flash blinded them. When they could see again, Nora was gone. The dividing crack widened into a pit of black water. The projector fell in, sputtering, casting wild flashes across the walls. Mark clung to Rachel as the floor buckled beneath them. Somewhere in the dark, Derek shouted, "We have to finish the exercise. That's what it wants." Mark yelled back, "What exercise? The one from that night?" "The trust fall." Rachel's voice broke. "You can't trust the dead, Derek." The whispering grew louder, rising into a scream that came from the very wood beneath their feet. Fall. The floor vanished. They fell into darkness. Mark awoke lying on cold concrete. The air smelled like mold and something sweetly rotten. Flickering emergency light illuminated broken furniture and wet stains on the walls. Rachel lay nearby, breathing shallowly. He stood dizzy. They were in the hotel's basement, but it was larger, impossibly large. Long corridors stretched in every direction, lined with identical doors, each marked with brass plates engraved with their initials. He found his again. Behind the door came the faint sound of knocking, then a voice. "You never answered me." He turned to Rachel, panicked. We're not supposed to open them, but she wasn't listening. She was standing before her own door, put tears on her face. "It's my daughter's voice," she whispered, but she wasn't even born back then. The knocking continued louder, and then another voice from the far end of the hall. Derek screaming, begging, then silence. A single overhead light buzzed on, revealing a doorway marked conference hall at the very end of the corridor. Mark took Rachel's hand. "We have to end it." Somehow, they walked slowly toward the light. The door creaked open by itself. Inside the circle of chairs again, the projector, and all 5 folders back on the table. But now, Lena sat among them. Whole, calm, her voice gentle. "You never finished what we started. The room feeds on unfinished things." Mark stepped forward. "What do you want?" She smiled faintly. Honesty. The lights dimmed. One by one, each of their names appeared on the projector. Underneath, a single word. "Guilty." "Welcome," said Lena softly. "To the part you never left." The door behind them slammed shut, and the session began again. The chairs hadn't moved, but they had. Rachel's breathing was sharp, shallow, like she'd just run miles, though she hadn't moved an inch. The light from the projector painted all of their faces in the same sickly shade of yellow-white. Lena was gone again. Or maybe she never sat there at all. No one spoke, not at first. The only sound was the click-click-click of the projector reel, though no film ran through it. And then a voice, female, quiet, distorted like it was underwater, said from somewhere behind them, "Say your name." Mark turned first. The voice had come from the far wall, but there was nothing there, only the faint reflection of their circle in a large, cracked mirror hanging crookedly above the table. Nora's reflection was missing. Rachel's chair squeaked as she turned to face the mirror. Her reflection stared back, but her face in the glass didn't move quite right. Its lips parted a second too late. Its eyes seemed to focus not on her, but through her. Mark whispered, "This room's a trick. It's like it's feeding us what we expect." Rachel didn't answer. She was leaning closer to the mirror now, hypnotized. Her reflection smiled. She didn't retch. Mark started, but she raised a trembling hand.
"I'll wait,"
she whispered, trying to say something. The reflection's lips moved again. Mark couldn't hear words, only a faint hiss, until it spoke clearly in Rachel's exact voice. Left her. Rachel stumbled back, nearly falling over her chair. Mark grabbed her arm. "Hey, look at me. Don't listen." But the mirror rippled, like a pond disturbed by a stone. And now, the reflection of the room wasn't the same. In the glass, Lena sat in the empty chair again, head tilted, smiling faintly. One side of her face glistened wetly as if from rain. "Say your name," she said again. The lights dimmed until only the projector's glow remained. A new image appeared on the screen, the same circle of chairs but empty, except for a small black tape recorder sitting in the center. Then, the voice of Reverend Holloway, the retreat's counselor from years ago, came from the speakers. "Honesty binds the soul to peace. Begin by telling what you saw." Mark's skin went cold. That recording was from their first truth session 10 years ago. No one had those tapes. It'd been destroyed after the incident. He looked around. No one else wanted to speak, so he did. "I saw her fall," he said, "but I didn't push her. I swear to God," the mirror shimmered. In it, his reflection leaned closer, whispering something he couldn't hear. Then, from the corner of the room, a faint metallic clink like a chain dragging across tile. Derek muttered, "This is fucked," and started pacing. But the moment his reflection vanished from the mirror, he froze, mid-step, like he'd walked into invisible water. Mark ran toward him. Derek's pupils were huge, eyes staring straight ahead. And then he spoke, monotone. "You weren't supposed to tell." The tape recorder on the table clicked. A red light blinked. It started to play by itself. November 2nd, 2013. Final evaluation. Subject group exhibiting dissociation and memory distortion. Only one participant has broken containment. The voice was Lena's. Everyone stared. "She was part of it," Nora whispered. "She wasn't a victim. She worked for them." The projector flickered again, showing Lena in a white lab coat, clipboard in hand, standing by the same conference table. Behind her, a man in a black suit, blurred, whispered something in her ear. Then static. Then her face filled the frame, close up, crying. "They said the room needs a sacrifice. But it never ends there. It never lets them leave." The image burned out. The bulb in the projector exploded. Sparks fell like fireflies across the table. Rachel screamed. Mark covered her, and for a moment everything went dark, except the faint blue glow of the emergency exit sign. When the lights came back, the room was empty, except for Mark and Rachel. The table was gone. The chairs gone. Even the smell of the carpet gone. Only the mirror remained, hanging in the middle of an endless corridor that stretched in both directions. Rachel's voice was thin. "We're inside it now." "Inside what?" he wanted to ask, but his throat was dry as paper. They walked. Their footsteps echoed, and after a few seconds another set of footsteps echoed too. Behind them, perfectly timed, until they stopped walking, and the other steps didn't. Mark spun around. Far down the corridor, a figure stood, silhouette only, tall. "Still, Lena," Rachel whispered. The figure stepped closer, and the light revealed its face. It was Mark, or rather, something wearing Mark's face. Eyes black, mouth slightly open, the skin around it cracking like old paint. Rachel's hand found his arm, shaking. "It's your reflection," it smiled. "You left me down there." Then it ran, straight at them. The two Marks collided with impossible force, glass shattering, light fracturing, both versions screaming. When it was over, Rachel knelt beside him. Blood ran down from a cut on his forehead, but in it he saw something horrifying. Tiny shards of mirror embedded in his skin, each reflecting a different version of his face. In one he was older. In another he was hanging. In another he was gone entirely. He grabbed Rachel's wrist. "This isn't the room anymore. It's us. It's showing what's left." She nodded faintly. "Then maybe it wants us to admit it." "Admit what?" Rachel's eyes filled. "That we're the reason she died." They stopped running. The corridor began to fade into fog, the mirror floating in the air before them like a portal made of water. Mark took a breath that felt like swallowing glass. "She found out," he said, "about the experiment, about what they were doing to us, monitoring fear, isolation, moral boundaries. She said she was going to expose them, and he stopped." The mirror rippled. Lena's face appeared within it again. "And you what?" He swallowed hard. "I locked the elevator. I didn't mean for her to. You watched me fall," she whispered. Rachel stepped forward. He wasn't alone. "We all lied. We all let it happen." The fog trembled. The mirror cracked again, a thin web of fractures racing across it. "Good," the voice said. "Now finish it," Rachel whispered. "Finish what?" "The session." The fog cleared. They were back in the conference room. Everything was normal again. The table, the chairs, the folders. Even Lena sitting in her seat, smiling softly, as if nothing had happened. "Was it a dream?" Rachel whispered. Mark shook his head slowly. "Dreams end." Lena stood. "Thank you all for your honesty," she said gently. "The session is complete." The projector flickered to life one last time, displaying the words, "Evaluation complete. Subjects 2. Status contained." Then it clicked off. Mark looked down at the table. Their folders were gone, but now 2 new ones sat there. Labeled simply, "Price, payment due." The door at the far end of the room creaked open. Sunlight poured in, warm, blinding. Rachel reached for his hand. "Maybe it's over." They walked toward the light. But as they stepped through, Mark caught one last glimpse of the mirror beside the door. It still showed them sitting inside, unmoving, eyes blank. Forever caught mid-confession, the Lena inside the mirror smiled. "We never leave the room." The words hung in the air like smoke that wouldn't clear. "We never leave the room." No one said it again, but everyone felt it, a weight pressing on their ribs, on their throats. It wasn't a metaphor anymore. It was a law, a curse, a sentence. When Sam pushed open the door, what waited beyond wasn't the hotel corridor they'd all seen before. It was a hallway, yes, but longer, darker, and lined with doors that didn't seem real. The carpet stretched endlessly, fading into shadow, and the air carried a faint hum like electricity in the walls. "Maybe this is just another part of the conference area," murmured Liz, clutching her notepad like it was a Bible. "Maybe no," Sam interrupted. "That's not possible. There's only one hallway on this floor." He should have sounded confident. He didn't. They stepped out together, the door clicking shut behind them with a soft, final sound like a tongue sealing a lie. At first, they walked cautiously, then faster, then in silence. Every door looked the same. Brass handle, frosted number plate, faint reflection. Every 20 steps they'd find another fire extinguisher. Another exit sign that pointed nowhere. Every time they turned a corner, the corridor continued. Identical, infinite. Hours might have passed, or minutes. That was when they began to hear it. At first, a shuffle like someone walking barefoot on the carpet behind them. Then whispers, low, muffled, but too close. Sam spun around. The corridor was empty. Liz whispered, "It's just our echo." But it wasn't. The whispers began repeating their words seconds after they spoke. Like a playback, slightly delayed, slightly wrong. "Who's there?" Sam yelled. And the hall answered, "Who's there?" But the voice that came back wasn't his. It was deeper, older, tired. They passed room 214 again. Sam noticed it because the brass floor was slightly crooked. "We've been here," he muttered. "No, we haven't," Liz snapped, sweat streaking her temples. "This one's different." It wasn't. The scuff mark by the wall was the same. The torn edge of the carpet, the faint smell of burnt coffee leaking from under the door. They tried opening it. Locked. Room 214 stayed locked, even when they came back to it a third time, and a fourth, and then a fifth. By then, Liz started crying. "It's looping," she said. "It's like we're being watched." Sam didn't deny it, 'cause he felt it too, the soft vibration underfoot, like the heartbeat of something enormous below them. Like the hotel was alive. At the end of the corridor stood a mirror. It hadn't been there before. Large, rectangular, framed in gold leaf. It reflected them perfectly, down to the nervous tick in Liz's mouth. But behind their reflections, there was a flicker, a movement, sixth person. Someone standing between them and the reflection, wearing a conference badge just like theirs. Name, Andrew Fitch. Sam blinked. Andrew Fitch was on the original roster, but he died 6 months ago in a car crash on his way to this very conference. The mirror's surface began to ripple like water. Liz reached out a trembling hand, and someone else's hand reached back. When she screamed, the sound didn't echo, it just stayed, hanging in the air like fog. Sam pulled her away, but her hand came back wet and cold, as though she'd dipped it in something alive. On her wrist, faint finger-shaped marks started forming, not bruises, more like impressions. Like something was learning the shape of her hand. Behind the mirror, the corridor looked the same. But this time, the reflection didn't follow. It just stood there, staring back, unmoving. Then it smiled. And in that same moment, all the doors on both sides of the hallway began to rattle. Not just rattle, knock, slow, rhythmic, in sync with something deep beneath the floor. Knock, knock, knock. "Don't answer," Sam hissed. But Liz couldn't stop staring at the mirror. "I think they're us," she whispered. "I think every time we walk this hallway, there's another version of us trapped behind it." She was right. The mirror flickered, and behind their reflections, dozens of Sam's and Liz's began appearing, each slightly off, each whispering a fraction too late. Knock, 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 and somewhere deep in the hallway, a voice said, "You left the room, but the room never left you." The voice wasn't just in the air, it was inside them. Liz's knees gave out first. She hit the carpet hard, clutching her ears. "Make it stop," she whispered. "Please, Sam, make it stop." Sam couldn't, because it wasn't a sound anymore. It was a thought. "You left the room, but the room never left you." Each word bloomed behind his eyes like static. His vision blurred, and for a moment he wasn't sure where the hallway ended or where his mind began. The lights above flickered with a pulse, steady, human, like a heartbeat trying to sync with his own. Then silence. For a long while, Neither of them moved. When the light steadied, the hallway looked different again. The carpet was newer now, brighter red. The wallpaper had changed, same pattern, but cleaner, sharper, like it had been replaced decades earlier. The air smelled younger, if that made sense. It was the same hotel, but a different time. Sam helped Liz to her feet. Her reflection in the mirror, still visible at the far end, didn't move in sync anymore. When Liz blinked, her reflection didn't. When Liz turned, it smiled. Then it began to walk toward them, not out of the mirror through the corridor like there was another version of it, walking just a few seconds behind, only slightly off. Every few steps the two Lizes overlapped, the real one and the echo. "Do you see it?" Sam whispered. "Yes," her voice cracked. "It's catching up." They ran, down the corridor, past room 214, past the endless line of identical doors. But no matter how fast they moved, the hallway rearranged itself. The doors began shifting places, numbers sliding like melting ink. 214 became 412, then 124, then no numbers at all. "Stop," Sam shouted. Stop running, because he'd realized something. Every time they ran, they passed another mirror, and in every mirror, their reflections multiplied. Slightly altered, slightly wrong, one with darker eyes, one bleeding from the nose, one smiling when they weren't, and then saw a reflection of himself without Liz beside him. He stopped breathing. Liz, she was gone. The hallway hummed again. That deep, low sound, like the world breathing beneath the floor. "Liz," he shouted. His voice echoed strangely, as if the walls were trying to swallow it. He turned back, and there she was, standing halfway down the corridor, perfectly still. Only she was in the mirror, not outside it. Her palm was pressed to the glass, her eyes wide. "Sam, you have to go," she whispered. "It's taking shapes now. It's learning how to be us." "Liz, don't I saw the others?" she said, tears streaking down her face. "The first team? The ones who never left the room? They're still here, Sam. They thought the exit was real. They walked right into their own reflections." He stared at her, every nerve screaming. And behind her reflection, he could see himself dozens of Sams, staring back, waiting. "Liz," he said softly, "if that's true, then which one of us is real?" She smiled faintly. "I don't think it matters anymore." And the mirror cracked silently, beautifully, like ice underfoot. Her image fractured into 1,000 tiny faces, each whispering something different. He reached for her, but his hand went straight through glass that wasn't there. When he pulled it back, his skin was fading, transparent, like smoke dissipating in light. Stumbled backward, gasping, and suddenly he was in the conference room again. The table, the coffee cups, stack of name tags. Everything looked exactly as it had before, except there were 7 chairs now, and all of them were full. Liz sat beside him, perfectly calm. Across the table were faces he half recognized, the journalist, the local guide, Ivan Valdez, the one who had disappeared first. They were all there, smiling politely, waiting for the meeting to start. The door opened. The moderator stepped in, clipboard in hand, his expression neutral. "Welcome back," he said. "Shall we begin?" Sam looked down, his name tag read, Andrew Fitch. His breath caught. The moderator's smile deepened. "We find the process works better once you've accepted your new role." Sam's throat felt dry. "What process?" The man tilted his head. "Reflection. You observe, you replace, you continue the cycle. Sam tried to stand, but his body didn't obey. His reflection in the polished tabletop moved a second later and smiled when he didn't. Outside the conference room, through the glass walls, the hotel corridor stretched on forever. Every door was closed. Every mirror gleamed. And every now and then, something flickered in the distance. Another team arriving, walking in circles, searching for a way out. Later, or maybe earlier, the moderator turned off the lights. One by one, the reflections stood up from their chairs and walked toward the door. And when the last one left, the room didn't go dark. It simply folded in on itself, quietly, like a memory being erased. The ones who never left the room every year, the conference invites a new batch of attendees. Every year, the agenda is the same. Every year, the room fills with people who think they're still alive. They discuss time, guilt, trauma, memory. They never notice the faint delay between their movements and their reflections in the glass. Outside, the hotel looks abandoned. No staff. No cars.
No clocks.
No clocks. Just a sign that still glows faintly over the entrance. Welcome to the Hollow Conference. Check in. Reflect. Stay forever.